Hi, my name is Kay Meyer. I like to read and write, and I don't really have a good angle for this, but I wanted to take you along with me today. Here's a couple things I got earlier, and right now I'm going to start with I want to collect my thoughts and my notes on my author friend's book that I just beta read and get those over to her. So I want to spend about 20 minutes doing that, and then hopefully I can get about 20 minutes in working on my own stuff. I will totally share what this book is about when I'm allowed to. For now, I can say it's like a new adult fantasy, romantasy, and I really like it. I've read other books by this author friend, and this is the first one in a new series. It's been really cool too, because the magic is different from her other series, and it's fun just getting to explore this new world that came out of her brain. But anyway. Okay. Wanted to do it in 20, but took a little more like 40 minutes because I had so many good things to say, and I wanted to read through what I had written like in line as I had been reading so that it made sense. But yeah, I am gonna work for we'll try for 20 minutes because it is already 6:20 and I'm starting to get hungry for dinner, but I wanted to get a little bit of work on my young adult sapphic horror novel. Ooh. I am working on the last 3 chapters, so I am really close. Right now, it's at 24 chapters. I might break a couple of those up because they ended up being really long, but right now I am going to work on chapter 22. I have 22 and 23 pretty much drafted. I am on draft 3 of my book, and the last act has been kicking my butt, y'all. Like, for some reason, it is the most easiest part to like visualize in my head of like what I want to happen, but actually getting there and having it make sense and like transferring like the vision to the page has been tricky because there's also a little bit of like, oh, I'm near the end, and a little bit of fear with that, because then I gotta go back to the beginning, and that's the part I've honestly like rewritten the most, because I've changed a lot about my main character from when I first started writing this story. I'm gonna work for 20 minutes. I will see you after. Hopefully I can get some work out because I have not worked on this in a while, in my actual like Scrivener document, so I'll give you a word update when I'm done as well. I also got a new little wrist rest for my mouse, just like $7 on Amazon, but they had a pink one and it's squishy because I have a mouse now. I did not when I had a laptop, but I need, oh yeah, this one's my trusty dusty rusty, yeah. My character takes a sip of her water bottle. I take a sip of my water bottle. That is not going to be a recurring thing in my story. Don't worry. It's not going to be like every page. I drink more water than my fictional character who doesn't actually need H2O. Anyway. So basically, I just wrote for 20 minutes, got 585 words in, woo! Mostly just retyping what I had from a couple weeks ago into my actual draft. Basically, I'm on draft 3, and I've been completely rewriting my story because I reorganized a lot of the scenes and made some major changes to my main character where a lot of what I had written before just wasn't working. And I also really overwrote the second draft, so I had a crazy number of words and none of it made sense, and there was a lot of duplicates of sentences that I didn't even realize that I wrote the same thing twice, because it was at different parts but describing the same thing, and it was kind of a hot mess. My story has looked very different from draft to draft. This is my first time trying to write a full-length novel. I have outlined and planned everything out, but it's just been one of those things that as I've written it, I decided I didn't like parts and I needed to change it. I do feel confident right now where the plot is going and how my character is portrayed and stuff. That was a big thing at the beginning. I really didn't have a good grasp on what I wanted her voice to be. I was just kind of going with it, and now I feel yeah, I got her character voice down and I know the way she would describe things, and I've been layering in more of the creepiness of obviously the big bad and the horror. But yeah, I went from overwriting to underwriting because this draft I've been really trying to make sure everything makes sense, and only keeping in what I know not necessarily is good on a line level, because I'm not too worried about that right now. It probably will be when I get ready to actually send this to an editor, but no, this is more of I want to make sure I tell the story the way I want it to come across and have my characters make sense, and just have it be more cohesive, because I've also been working on this pretty regularly since 2023, I want to say. So there's some old stuff there that I'm oh yeah, I decided I didn't want to do that, or I'm oh, I didn't have a name yet for this one character, so I just kept saying the uncle, and that even changed. I know I need to add in a bunch more stuff, but I feel I will actually have enough to legit edit, because I didn't skip anything. There's stuff I have realized I want to add in, but it's a little different from being yeah, I'm not gonna write that chapter because I haven't really quite decided how I want it to go yet. That has been one of my main goals with draft 3, was don't skip anything. Even if it's bad, write something for every scene, or if it's incomplete, just get something down or get the idea I want. So yeah, I now have 34,160 words. Ooh. I'm kind of aiming just for around 50,000, this is not gonna be a big fantasy. It doesn't need to hit that 90, 100,000 word count. I've also been kind of preferring shorter books anyway, and it's young adult, so I mean, anybody can read big books, anybody can read little books, but yeah, I feel short books kind of are not as weird with horror anyway. I mean, you got your outliers like Stephen King, obviously, but he's written big and little books, so yeah, that is where I'm going to leave it for today. It is almost 7 o'clock, and I want to go eat dinner, and watch the new season of Love is Blind. Hello! I'm at my parents' house this weekend. Wanted to come in town and see them and my sister, but also my mom's college that she went to is shutting down. We've known this for a while, but they're having like their last big sale and getting rid of everything, all sorts of random stuff that they still have there. So we went there yesterday, got a bunch of random stuff for free that is like really great. They were also cleaning out their entire library. So my mom and we took as many books as we wanted, which was really fun. Also kind of sad because they're just going to be like recycling the books when they're done, and it was great to see how many people were there. So here's a couple clips of that. You can see how many of the books were already gone by the time we got there, and we still cleaned up. So these are all the books and a candle that my mom picked out. She went to school for art and was absolutely so excited. They still had so many art books left for her to pick up. She also got a bunch of like random office supplies. I got like a folder. She was basically going for everything that was like purple and had the college's name on it. I was just going for purple because I love purple. There was the weirdest stuff, just the weirdest stuff left over. Like all these holiday decorations. I expected office supplies and like books and t-shirts from the school. People were taking random chairs and tables, so that was fun to see. But I wanted to show you guys these really fun and silly posters I got. But I found a periodic table of fruit and nuts, but more importantly, fruit. And it also comes with a vegetable one. And it's actually like in order, like with the letters and stuff of the actual periodic table. And it has numbers that has to do with the calories of the fruit, but also kind of like the atomic numbers. So that's just kind of silly. I don't have room in the apartment I live in currently to put these up, but I just know these are going to look really cute in the kitchen someday. And almost all of the fiction was already just gone. But I did manage to find a copy of Mexican Gothic. I have not read this yet, but I have really been wanting to. Obviously, as someone who likes spooky things, Gothic, and all things horror, this has been on my list to read for a while, so I'm excited I finally got a copy. I also found a copy of All Boys Aren't Blue. This has also been on my TBR for a while. It's like a memoir. I'm not sure if it's fictionalized at all or if it's just straight up memoir, but I saw this on a list of like banned books for being queer, so you know I have to read it now. And this cover is gorgeous. Now the rest of the books are going to be strictly nonfiction. Starting off with In Science's Shadow. This is about women and science in the Victorian era, which Victorian era is whacked, obviously. They believed in so many weird stuff that clearly is not how things are. But they also believed some really, really cool things, like about the afterlife, and just like had really strange, compared to today, death practices, especially like what you do in mourning and stuff like that. So, excited to read this. Hopefully I won't get too depressed about how women have been studied for science purposes, because if you've read anything or listened to any podcasts about asylums from the Victorian era, you could basically just be put in there for having period symptoms, because they would label it hysteria. So I'm excited to learn about this. Now for two books that my mom actually found for me. She pulled this off the shelf just because it was huge and green. But she also saw that lesbian was in the title, so she was just like, here, you'll probably like this. And I was like, sure, I'll read that. But it's called No Modernism Without Lesbians, for women who are important in history who are lesbians. I'm guessing getting us to the modern era, I don't even know. Obviously, I recognize Gertrude Stein's name, but there's also Sylvia Beach, Natalie Barney, and someone who goes by one name, Breyer. So, random lesbian history book. I'm down.
So, it only took a couple seconds on this book's Goodreads page to realize that this author is trans exclusionary. While the time period this book covers is considered historical, No Modernism Without Lesbians came out in 2020. Applying today's labels to historical figures can be complicated. However, that does not mean we can ignore the words the person used to define themselves at the time, especially when considering gender as a spectrum instead of a binary. This is not a TERF channel or a government website. all the letters of the queer community are and will be respected here.
My mom also got me this book all about comics and like graphic novels and some historic names in that part of the publishing industry. Obviously, Stan Lee, Marvel and everything, and then Neil Gaiman too. He's kind of icky these days, but there's also some women in here too that I'm excited to read about that I don't really know. I'm not a big comic reader, but I love how comics and graphic novels are made and illustrated. As someone who really likes superheroes and drawing, it's a really cool crossover. Obviously, that's where a lot of superheroes come from. But yeah, I'm kind of a nerd about how all that's made, so this will be fun to read. And I picked this book up because I can't not pick up a book that says Voldemort and Darth Vader in the title. Because what? Obviously, J.K. Rowling also icky, don't want to be promoting her, but I am interested in reading about villains, and it's not just about that one, so. Also, just like flipping through the contents page, I can tell it's also going to be about Disney villains, vampires in Twilight, His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, and some other villains that like I haven't read yet, but I love reading essays about film, especially like pop culture ones. It brings me back to being in college and like reading a bunch of stuff like that for my papers and for fun because, yeah. Branching off of that, I found 3 books I am dying to read by the same author that are all about horror and film. So, I found Hollywood Gothic by David J. Skal? Probably Skal. So this is all about Gothic horror movies and early Hollywood, and these are really cool because there are a bunch of pictures and like movie posters and just like this is the kind of fun nonfiction that I want to get into. I used to have to read a lot about film for school. Like I got a film minor in college, so I used to be all over stuff like this. But it's been a while, and it'll be more about stuff like I'm actually interested in. Just because like taking a class, there's going to be stuff that is just boring and you don't like, right? So I'm excited to read about movies again, specifically stuff that's more up my alley. The other book I got by him is The Monster Show. So this is just kind of more horror movies and Hollywood, but this is going to be taking place a little bit after, I believe. More of a historical review of monsters in movies versus just Gothic and early Hollywood. And I love how they like go together. And the third book by Mr. David Skal that I found, I actually found this one first, and oh my god, I picked it up just because it looked cool, and now I'm really excited to get into it. It's titled Vampires: Encounters with the Dead, and it has the cool little chandelier on the side too. Like, this is just a badass spine. Like, I believe this is just going to be like a kind of overview of vampires throughout history, from like folklore, classic literature, and pop culture. So, very excited. This is the kind of stuff that I used to read when I was a kid, which sounds weird, but like I would read, you know, like more kid appropriate ones, like about folklore and like monsters and stuff. Not like academic like this. So it's gonna be a little bit reaching back to like the stuff I used to like to read as a kid, but with more like critical thinking skills now, obviously. So very excited to read these 3. I don't have a plan of when I'll get to them, but hopefully I can start getting into these this spooky season. The last book in that kind of vein is pretty nondescript looking, but it is titled The Dracula Book of Great Vampires. I believe this is just short stories of vampires, but there was a bunch that I didn't recognize that I was excited about. But most importantly, it has a copy of Carmilla in it, which I have not read, and I have really, really wanted to. So, and like, look how fancy this is. The Carmilla, like the C for Carmilla, just fun and cool. A lot of the books they had at this library were like pretty old. Like this one is from 77, but it's still like in good condition, whereas a bunch of the books I found from the 90s were honestly not good quality anymore. Like, you could tell they were made kind of cheaper, and like the part of the binding that is around the hardback part, around the cardboard, was like totally frayed and the cardboard was exposed. Because I found some great books that I really want to read sometime, but it was just like the editions they had were like really well loved, to the point where I don't want to read them because they would just be crumbling and falling apart. And if I put that in my bag to bring with me to read somewhere, I'm just gonna have a ton of cardboard and paper, just bits. Ugh. And obviously some books, like, they start smelling funky, and I feel like if a book smells just because it's old, I'm probably not really gonna want to pick it up because I'm gonna smell it every time, and it just takes me out of the reading experience because I can't stop smelling it. So I've literally stopped reading books like specifically for that reason before, because I couldn't read that copy because it was just bothering me too much. I even went to the library one time because I had to read a book for school, like in high school, that I was borrowing from the library, and I was like, do you have any other copies of this? Because I need to read it for school, and I can't read this copy because I'm sneezing and itching my nose the whole time because it was at somebody's house who had a cat, and there's like a lot of cat hair like literally in the book, which, like, I understand, cat hair gets everywhere, but as someone who's allergic to cats, and it was just, I physically couldn't read that book because it was a no-go. Like, I might have to read this for school, and I'm not that interested in it. I'm not gonna like torture myself by having to have like an allergy attack at the same time. Now, the last book that I found, I'm really excited to get into this. Also, just to look at the pictures, because I found a cookbook all about pies. This is called Pieometry. I'm probably not going to get as intense designs as the girl who put this book together, but I am really excited for like the different flavors, because there's like a chocolate matcha and like carrot and spinach pie crust, and it's like tarts and pies, but like, look how detailed that is, and like very meticulously put together. I wouldn't say I'm a bad baker, but I haven't practiced. I've literally only made a pie like twice, but like, look at those. Look at that. That looks like noodles. Noodles. And I believe this one was like a blueberry crust, and she had two pink ones. One was like a beet. Oh, yeah, no. And then she had like a beet crust to make it that like really nice color. Oh gosh, and just look at this. It's a malted chocolate pudding pie with Nutella pie dough. I mean, I would have to make some adjustments just because I don't eat dairy, but there is some really good vegan Nutella, not Nutella brand, that I've been trying. So I might just have to make this. Because that looks amazing. Oh, here, let me show you one of the tarts, because that was like what I saw first, and I was like, I need this book like yesterday. Like, look how advanced these are. Look at these designs. Like, I would eat that up, but I also would be like taking pictures. It's by Lauren Coe from Lauren Coe Kitchen on Instagram. I don't know anything about her, but this is the kind of stuff that I didn't get into during quarantine, but I feel like I kind of want to sometime. So, not in a rush to get all fancy, but I do want to try the different flavors of like tart and pie doughs. Hi, hello! The sun here is brutal, but I just wanted to pop in and say thank you for watching, because I forgot to film an outro before. And I'm almost done with draft 3. I will update you how that goes in the next video. Happy reading and writing, and stay creepy.